Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're boarding passengers seated in zones E and F at this time. Your zone number...
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Crew Travel right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I'm very pleased to welcome back, after a week's hiatus, Lee Harris of ATPI Travel. How are you, Lee?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I do apologize for last week. Certain things came up. We couldn't do the podcast, but we're here this week, so all good.
I'm sure nothing happened in your absence. It doesn't happen when you're gone.
I just branded everything, and they waited until we were back, and that's exactly how it happens.
The way it should be. So, what's going on in the world of travel? Delta Airlines has some news.
They do, yeah. Delta Airlines have announced this week the introduction of the route between John F. Kennedy Airport and Venice Marco Polo Airport. As of today, the Airline relaunched daily operations between the two cities, complementing its existing offering from its home at Atlanta International Airport. Flights will be operated daily on the Boeing 767 and is capable of carrying 216 passengers. Now, Delta is the only airline flying from the US to Venice this month, but that will not be the case in April. American Airlines is launching non-stop flights from Philadelphia International Airport on April the 4th, before going daily from April the 6th. They'll be using the Boeing 787, and American will operate seasonal services to Venice until the end of October. American will also relaunch services from Chicago to Venice, and that was last flown back in 2019. Now, these new routes from the USA to Europe will come in handy just in time for the Med season. However, on the flip side of new routes being announced, Delta did also announce the termination of routes from Atlanta to Stuttgart and from New York to Geneva.
Give with one hand and take with the other.
It always is, isn't it?
Yeah. The sale of South African Airlines seems to reach a hiccup.
It has, unfortunately, yeah. After 3 years of negotiations between the South African government and the Takatso consortium, both parties failed to agree upon the airline's value. That's resulted in the collapse of a long-awaited deal for South Africa to sell its share of the airline. The government announced the mutual termination of the agreement this past Wednesday. The Department of Public Enterprises, which oversees the airline, will now continue with a new corporate plan to expand South African Airways' fleet and routes while bringing on a new aviation strategy advisor to support the airline. Now, as with many other airlines, South African Airways struggled in the past few years. While every airline suffered setbacks from COVID-19, South African Airways saw itself struggling, requiring its government owners to bail out the airline multiple times in 2020. That was before the deal to sell 51% of the airline's ownership to the Takatso consortium was originally announced. Now, with this falling through, South African Airways' future is uncertain once more, this being a common theme with South African Airways for almost the last decade. Now, for any crew traveling from or to South Africa, I would err on the side of caution when booking the airline. We've seen previously on multiple times that they pull flights at the last minute due to financial issues. So again, any crew who are traveling either to or from South Africa, I would seriously reconsider booking South African Airways at this time.
What a shame. What a shame. JetBlue has some news.
Yeah, so just in time for St. Patrick's Day last week, US-based airline JetBlue launched new services from its hub at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York and Boston Logan International Airport to the Irish capital city of Dublin. In total, the carrier will now operate 2 daily flights connecting these cities during the peak summer season, one from both New York and Dublin. The carrier has continued to expand its transatlantic offerings over the past few years, adding new destinations like Paris and Amsterdam, in addition to non-stop flights from New York to Edinburgh Airport, which will launch later this spring. This gives crew more flexibility and direct offerings to the UK's larger regional airports instead of having to transit through the dreaded London Heathrow Airport. These services are seasonal and as such are due to end in September.
And some strike action happening, but not the normal kind.
Indeed, yeah. So with wide-ranging political strikes by largest trade unions in Finland having already started, Finnair, Finland's de facto flag carrier, could be impacted. In particular, its fuel supplies at the country's airports might force the airline's aircraft to make unplanned fuel stops. Now, according to a report, the 2-week strikes will likely affect Finnair's fuel supply at the country's airports, including Helsinki Airport, which is its main hub. An airline representative advised that the carrier's flights are being refueled at destination airports to try and save fuel at Helsinki. Meanwhile, long-haul flights will likely have additional stopovers, which will lengthen the flight times of passengers flying into Finland from other continents, including Asia and North America. Obviously, with anybody flying with Finnair, if they're in transit as well, the longer flights now, if they do have to do a full stop, could impact your onward flights. So I would check in with the airline just to make sure that you do have enough time if these stops are going to make your connections a lot tighter.
I've never heard of that kind of strike. We've had almost on a weekly basis, but that's the first time that I've actually heard about a fuel strike.
Yes, I've got to say, it's not the first time. It is, the first time that I've heard of it as well. I've not reported on one before, that's for sure. It'll be interesting, actually, to see what does happen with people in transit and their flights, and if it does make a major impact, because I'm sure we'll hear about it if it does.
Yeah, because that's going to, every airline has their slots at airports, and that's going to make those times that they have, because if they just arrive and take off, it's one thing, but if they've got to arrive and refuel, that changes the entire sort of coordination of any airport, guaranteed.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks for Finnair passengers, that's for sure.
And there is bad news for the Filipinos needing Schengen visas.
Yeah, unfortunately so. Filipino nationals are expected to spend 11.8 million euros in Schengen visa fees instead of 10.5 million if a draft proposed by the EU Commission's hike visa fees is approved. As the new initiative anticipates, the price for Schengen visa applications for Filipinos will increase from 80 euros to 90 euros, with the respective authorities revealing the inflation rates are the main driver for raising the fees. Calculations for the average number of visa applications filed by Filipinos between 2018 and 2022 show that this nationality files 132,000 visa applications every year. Based on the data published by Schengen Statistics, the expenditure for visa applications can soar by 1.3 million euros in 2024. Now, in addition to the regular applications, the EU-led initiative wants to raise that fee for minor applicants from 40 euros to 45 euros also. That's on top of Schengen visa service providers, people who help fill in the forms, etc., will also impose higher fees, charging 45 euros instead of 40 euros for their services, while the application for a Schengen visa extension is expected to remain unchanged, set at 30 euros.
So who initiates these fees? Is it the Schengen area itself, or is it the government in the Philippines?
It's the EU Commission. It'll be the EU as a whole, as a group, will decide the cost of the Schengen visa.
So why are they targeting the Filipinos as opposed to the Philippines, as opposed to the rest of the world?
They'll put it up for everybody. It's just highlighting the fact that the Philippines going to get hit hard because they basically make they're one of the biggest people to make visa applications for Schengen visas. So it's just highlighting the fact of how much theirs is going to go up by 1.3 million. But you'll see that the price will go up for every nationality for a Schengen visa.
And that's insane, because when you're talking about the average living wage in the Philippines, that's a lot of money.
13% increase. How much it is? It's crazy. 13% in one hit. And like you say, it's for nationalities, like you say, the living wage isn't quite so high. That's a hell of a lot of money you've got to find all of a sudden.
Yeah, so 10 euros or $10 is one thing. For the Philippines, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
See how that plays out. So, Lee, I guess that's it for this week. We got to say that if you have any crew questions, please do contact us. I'll provide all of Lee's information below this interview when it airs. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was good to be back. And looking forward to next week already.
I feel that I've flushed out all of my negative feelings because we had a big, long chat before this interview. So thank you.
We did. You've got 7 days worth out of the way, so we're good to go again next Monday.
I know it was actually 14 days, but who's counting?
It was 14 days.
I have to say thank you once again. This has been Lee Harris from ATPI Travel with this week's Crew Travel News. My name is Ria. I have been your host. We'll see you again next week.